Hello fam, Ken Mills here once again with World of Comedy 5 Entertainment. So to give you the idea of what Unbiased is, we always see things on social media and also in the world where we wonder what is the thought process behind these idiotic things that people do. We're going to give an honest, unbiased opinion. So with that being said, we're going to cover several different topics. These topics will start from mental health, addiction, finance, incarceration, relationships. We're going to be truly unbiased this season. So remember, tune in at 8 p.m. Check us out on Boss Up Houston Network. Good evening, family. We're back again, fresh new episode of Unbiased. Now tonight, it's going to be a little bit different than many other nights. The special title for this episode is Elevators. So as you know, most of the times if you want to go to a higher level in the building, you have to get on the elevator. Sometimes you get on the elevator at the base level. Sometimes you get on it in many different floors. Sometimes you might get off, stay somewhere a little bit, then go up a little bit higher. We're going to talk about all these levels of ascension tonight. And for this special topic, I brought a special illustrious individual here with me. Over to my right, she's a magnate in the poetry scene. She's an entrepreneur. She's a survivor. Y'all give it up for Goddess Fee.
Hey.
All right. So that's what y'all do in poetry. Y'all got the special wave. You got to teach me.
No, that's my wave.
That's
hey.
your wave? Okay. All right. I'm learning something. All right. So, Fee, now, I ran across you multiple times because comedy and poetry intertwine. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you do your own thing with poetry.
Yes, I do.
And you also kind of built a world where poetry and comedy collide as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah.
All right. So talk about that. I think that's part of your business, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Poet Goddess Fee. I am the CEO of IAG Productions, where we believe in women supporting women, pushing men towards greatness. All the faces of the company is African American women. All the affiliated members of the company is all African American men. Me and my business partner, I'm a poet. My name is Poet Goddess Fee, and my business partner is comedian Lady K. So we met years ago with a company called 2K Comedy, 2K Enterprises. Shout out to Jody Summers. Hey, and from there we kind of just. We both studied the craft. We both started out in this particular entertainment company together, and we studied the craft. We studied the business behind it, and we figured out then that comedy and poetry belongs together. It both does the exact same thing, except one makes you laugh, the other one makes you sit down and think. But at the same time, they're both coming from the same era, which is the African era. It came from African tribes. Comedy was a form to make you laugh through whatever it is you're going through. Poetry is the written word of what you are thinking of. So you put those two together and you got the epitome of the entertainment industry.
I never thought of it like that. Because I'm going to be honest with you, but before I start doing comedy, be honest, I had respect for poetry, but not like I do now. Because at first, I kind of was like, to be honest with you, I'm just like my audience. My audience could be ignorant at times, so we thought Love Jones was...
That's what got me into it.
Was like the picture of poetry. But I didn't know how vast the scene was here in Houston.
Yeah. Let me see. With me, I'm that type of poet. I'm a very monotone type of poet. So I learned my poetry styles from the Love Jones era, from listening to all that stuff. That's my type of feel. I love putting music behind my poetry beats. But then as I keep growing in the poetry entertainment industry here in Houston, it takes me into different lanes. To the spiritual side, to the spoken word side. The spoken word is the biggest poetry platform in the city of Houston, because everyone is doing spoken word, and it's really taking over the world, honestly.
Because I mean, I'm a huge hip hop fanatic, right?
Yeah.
So I would say some of your more artistic hip hop will lean toward the spoken word, like your Kendrick Lamar's, like your J. Cole's, like those type of people that are heavy lyricists.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, like I have some of my friends, shout out to Voice of the Black Sheep, shout out to Lady 380, those type. They really intertwine those words almost like a rapper.
Oh yes, especially at 380.
Mm-hmm.
She's a lyrical mastermind.
Mm-hmm. So I want to kind of talk about how you got into poetry. So how did you find your art?
Oh well, it was back in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was a senior in high school, and I was dating this guy. Me and him still best friends to this very day. His mom is actually a poet, and I didn't know how deep in the poetry industry she really is. Shout out to Jolly the poet. She taught me everything I know, but it started on February the 14th, 2008. She took her kids on a date for Valentine's Day and took their dates on a date. And we went to this place called G's and Z's Poetry Cafe. I'll never forget it. That's the night I met Black Snow, Marie Brown, Savannah Blue, Equality, Enoch the poet, Caleb Israel, everyone who was anybody. Like all the vets was in the room that night. And when I walked in the room, again, I didn't know what poetry really was. I used to think poetry was like William Shakespeare and Robert Frost. That's the only thing I really knew, because I was in high school. That's the only thing we was really taught. But then I walk into this room and I see all these African American faces spitting poetry. And there was people everywhere. It was people sitting down. There was people on the stairs. People, they went up to the roof. There was people everywhere. There was a line outside the door, all for poetry. And I was like, wow. So I'm sitting there in amazement. We couldn't even sit down in a chair. We just had to sit on the stairs. I was just sitting there in amazement that everyone came in this room for this one thing. And it was all for poetry. That night, after the show, I was like, Mama, I want to do this. She's like, you do? I said, yes, I want to do what you do. She's like, you want to do what I do? Or do you want to do what they do? I'm like, no, I want to do what you do. So at that moment, she took me underneath her wing. She showed me the ropes. She brought me into what it was that's called Poetry Productions, doing poetic stage plays. And then she taught me the entertainment industry, because she works for 979 and Magic 102 as the president of the sales department. So she's teaching me about the entertainment industry and how to promote and how to produce and how to market my stuff and how to put things out there. But I was so nervous, I didn't know how to do it. I was scared to go out there and just take that leap of faith. So I always kind of fell into the background, and I was like, well, I'm going to allow someone else to do it. I'm going to teach them how to do it, and then I'm just going to let them shine. And that's when it came to place, when I decided, I was like, you know what? I decided to spread my wings a little bit, but not really. I was like, let me go somewhere where I can learn a little bit more, but on a different level. Because I met Jody back in 2014. I was working as a bartender at Chemistry Bar and Lounge, and he was doing this comedy show. Now, when I met him as a bartender. So I was like, oh, they have a comedy show here this Wednesday. And I think that, it was Valentine's Day of 2014. It was 2014. When there was like this Valentine's Day show, and I was like, that was his first show. I was like, I wonder who's putting it on. Now, he said some guy by the name of Jody. No, he said somebody by the name of Jody. I said, oh, for real? At that time, I only knew him by Ramon. I didn't know him by Jody at that time. He said somebody by the name of Jody. I said, oh, I wonder what she looked like. He says, I don't know, but I think they over there selling shoes. That's when he had Jody Summer Shoes and Apparel. So not only is this man selling shoes, but he also putting on the show too. At that time, he wasn't a comedian. He was just producing the show. That's when he was with Rillos. So I'm watching the show, and I'm like, wow, I want to learn how to do this. Anytime I want to learn something new, I'm always trying to find the person who can teach it to me. Because I know how to put together a poetry event, but I want to know how it feels to put on a comedy show. And how can I mix the two together? So that's when Ramon introduced me to Jody. And from there, he taught me how to put together to strongly put together a show, how to put the order together, how to find the DJs, how to get stuff at a discounted rate, but and put on your own stuff. Because so many people are so used to having to pay for every little thing. I learned how to talk my way to getting stuff. Okay. Which is crazy. Because my whole thing is about coming together. Uniting together. I don't mind uniting with the business owners. I don't mind connecting with the venues and saying, hey, let's work together to make this happen. I want to create your vision. I took what I believe in, which is creating. And I take what the owner wants, and I said, let's make magic. Let's all eat together. Because when I was with the entertainment company, that was the one thing that was missing, was us all eating together. And Jody, if you're watching this, I love you. Okay? I love you to pieces. But that was the one thing that was missing, was us all eating together. And I was like, when I work with someone, I want them to eat with me. If my plate is full and your plate is empty, hey, get some off my plate. You good? And that's what I strongly believed in. I'm like, oh, your cup is empty? Mine is still full. I'm not going to drink all this. You can have some. and that's what I wanted to create, was something where we can all build together. And by joining forces with him teaching me the ropes, I was like, let me take what I've been taught from all these years of experience and now apply it to my own dream, my own vision, and create what I want. And that's when IAG came to be.
Shout out to Jody. Jody's been on the show multiple times. It's a good friend of ours. So when you met him that night, y'all started to work together. So what were some of the projects that y'all were able to put together?
Bright Lights. That was I ain't gonna lie, that was one of the biggest things, was Bright Lights, the Bright Lights series. That was the first event we did at the Houston Improv, and we sold it out. That's that night was probably the most memorable one. Together, we actually created this event. Now, the I'm a Survivor Seminar is one of those events where it was my thought, it was my vision, but I created it underneath the 2K Poetry brand. Because when Jody met me, I started out as his entertainment assistant. And he saw that I had a love for poetry. So he was like, I really want to bring comedy and poetry together. Like some of the way you just got through saying it. And he taught me basically what I just got through telling you is how it comes together. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So he was like, so if I have the 2K comedy over here, I want you to be over the 2K poetry. I want you to create events. And I want to help you with doing it. I was like, okay, cool. Let's do it then. And the first poetry event that we created together was the review. The review is basically the end of the year event where all of our events come into one. We had the poetry open up, and then we had comedy afterwards. So we had about 5 poets and we had 5 comedians. We had a headliner for the comedy. We had the poetry. We had a headliner for our comedy. That first year we did it, did it at it was on the north side off of 59 and 1960. K Nate was helping us she promoted for it. I can't think of it. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't get it off. But it was a brand new venue at the time, and that night we had Cadillac, we had Nate Williams come through there. We also had a Jolly. We had a live band, a live jazz band that I personally worked with. That night I was actually the feature that night because I was introducing something new. We had Rain the Poet come through. Lyric. It was just so many wonderful different faces that came through that was so supportive of the team. Like, I was just so very happy with the process. We had Shawnee the Poet. That's my heart right there. Sunshine Princess of Poetry. Like I said, that night created something powerful because after that we just kept it going. And then the next event that I did underneath the 2K Poetry brand was a night of romance, which was our Valentine's Day event, which is poetry and comedy. But the comedy part comes into the host. So what I would do is I got a beautiful, sexy, feminine poet and a dope comedy comedian and put them together and made that work. And the first year we did that, we had Rain the Poet and we had Jody. Jody would flirt with Rain, and Rain would always diss him, which was funny and corny all at the exact same time. Because Jody, he had these jokes, so it was like really really corny, but at the same time, when you put those two personalities together, his corniness was cute, even though she kept dissing him. So just getting that on the stage, it drew everyone in. That night, the first time we did that, we had yours truly to be our feature that night, and that was the most powerful because that was one of our first sold out poetry events. Mm-hmm. It was some dope artists on that show too. We had live music with it. We had a singer, but for the most part, it was poets. Sunny C. Light, and everyone was on that one. Shout out to Sunny C. Light. She doing her thing right now. She have a show coming up real soon. So hey, I can't even much wait for that. But from there, then that next event was the Survivor Seminar, the first year, and that one was crazy because everything I did, I incorporated comedy into it. Comedy was, for me personally, it's a healing mechanism. Like I said, you get poetry, which makes you go into your feelings a little bit. It kind of jogs those memories. And then you got the comedy that makes you laugh at your pain. The year I will never forget is year 2. Year 2, we had my brother, I love him to death, Mal Malucci, to be the comedy focal point at that event. And it was so funny because our keynote speaker, she was a minister, Vascola Stoney. She had everyone. We went from happy, then we started crying, and then also we went back happy again, then we was in our feelings, and then we went into intermission. And I said, okay, Mom, this is what I need you to do. You're gonna bring us up after the second half. He's like, wait, what? He's like, I'm prepared, but I don't know how to take people from their emotional stage right now, and I had to make them laugh. I said, yeah, not knowing he was also going through some things too. Mm-hmm. So he was going to have to fight through those battles too. And for me, when it comes down to when you're in transition between being a victim to being a survivor, it's knowing how to laugh at the things that hurt the most. And that night, he proved it. he that's also was the first time where he started talking about his comedy special, because that was the first time he was talking about his comedy special that was coming out about his life. And when I tell you the jokes he used, it was about his childhood, and it was about how he was growing up, about his mom, about his kids, and all this stuff. So to see him in that light, to see him just really open up and say, hey, I'm going to laugh at my pain, because yes, that shit does hurt, but I'm going to laugh at it because of the fact I went through it. I'm not no longer in that dark place no more. And that is what shows you what the epitome of a survivor is. From there, it was like I always had to have comedy involved in it. I had to, because that is the transition. I want people to see how you can, the different ways of how you can transition into a survivor, and how us as artists can do that. And what I mean by artists, I mean artists on every level. Because a comedian is an artist. A poet is an artist. A painter is an artist. Everyone is all artists. That's the umbrella of us. That's how we all come together, is that umbrella of being an artist. So to have all our different art forms into one event, and we're all counseling through that. That was the one thing I was like, I couldn't thank Jody enough for encouraging that to come out and to be a focal point. So I will always give him credit, especially on that, because that was the one event that I was like, I was able to take into IAG and do some powerful things with it.
So, Maul Malucci, shout out to him. He's been on the show as well. That's one of my good brothers. So, now, if you see him now, he always talks about either his father or his childhood on every set. So, shout out to him. I know that take a lot of strength to do.
Yeah.
So, we're going to fast forward to IAG.
Yeah. So,
what was the idea that made you go into IAG and also partner with Kay?
Well, IAG was created years ago. It was, the thought of it was created when I was a freshman in college. But it didn't become an actual thing until I got with 2K. And my whole entire plan of joining with 2K is to learn how to run my own business. That was the whole plan for me anyways, was to learn how to run my own stuff and do my own thing. So back in 2018, after working for long extended years with 2K, I was told I was going to be demoted from being the vice president of the poetry team to being its leading artist. Which in most cases, for most people, that'd be like, okay, well, that takes the stress off of me. Well, for me, that wasn't the case. Because I was like, I created all these events. I created the Night of Romance. This event, the Our Survivor Seminar, was an event that I created. Yes, he helped me to put it in action, but the thought was created because of my mother. And the stuff that she'd been through, and the stuff that I've been through as a child, and all those different things coming to be. So I was like, how can you tell me I'm going to be demoted from the one thing that all I know how to do is create stuff? You telling me there's going to be someone else to come in over me to put on these events? Oh, no. They're going to still have to fall underneath me. So why not let them the leading artist and keep me as the vice president? But it was at that moment where God spoke to me, and God told me, this is your chance. So I was like, you know what? You don't have to demote me. I voluntarily give up my seat and leave. I didn't know where I was going to go from there. I didn't know how I was going to do anything. At that time, I was getting ready for the 4th annual I'm a Survivor Seminar, and I was like, I need somebody. At that time, Cadillac, that's my sister too. Shout out to Cadillac. She was putting on this event, and she's like, I need a poet. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll come through. Because at that time, I wasn't hearing nothing from nobody in the industry anymore. I wasn't hearing nothing from the comedians. Nobody was really fooling with me. And I was trying to figure out why. Why was there such a distance between me and all these comedians that I've grown to love? There was a distance between me and my brother Leroy. There was a gap between me and Cadillac. There was a gap between me and all these people. Me and Trusted. There was a gap between all of us. And I was like, these are people who I've grown and I respect and I want to work with, and no one's talking to me. But now out of nowhere, when I let go of this, then people started calling me. And I was like, okay, well, I want to get back connected to all these people I lost connection to. So Cadillac told me to come through, and I was like, okay, cool. That night, I ran into Kay. And Kay was sitting at the bar, and we was just chopping it up, and we was catching up over time and everything. And I told her what I was about to start doing. And she's like, oh, well, when you start doing, I'm a host, I do this, I do that. I'm like, okay, cool. And she was on the same thing with me, because we was both trying to find our own lane. Mm-hmm. Shout out to my sis. That's when she was, she really took Lady K, and she made that into not just the name, but her brand. And she started putting that towards other things. And that's when you start seeing Kay in plays and singing and all this. I'm like, wow, she does all this stuff. And I was like, I saw her again at a Zenai Shay event. And she was hosting it. I was like, oh, wow, you're doing this too. Okay, we need to definitely work. So I told her about IAG and the I'm a Survivor seminar. And she was like, I'm down for it. I'm completely down for it. Let's do it. And she helped me to create something magical, because she was just supposed to be helping me as a host. But she believed in IAG like I believe in IAG. She believes in the vision. She believes in the I'm a Survivor seminar. She believes in helping people. She believes in unifying people. I was like, why not? I was like, at first, I was like, I love her as a host. But I was like, I need her on a deeper level. And I don't know what that level is. So I had my team members that was a part of IAG at the time to vote to say who would be my vice president. If I need someone in that seat to help me run the productions. And everyone voted for Kay. So I was like, I don't know why, but I'm ready to find out why. And literally, when Kay went from being the host to being the vice president of IAG Productions, she started elevating. She's like, oh, if you're ready to grow, I'm ready to grow with you. Let's grow together. And that's all I ever want. I said, if you ready to help me grow, hey, I'm all for it. So she started introducing me to all these people. Sharon, she introduced me to her mom. I didn't even know how big Lady Cassandra Webb was until I met her. So, she started introducing me to all these people. Douglas Houston with Southern Union Media. All these different big people in Houston. And I was like, wow, you know a lot of people. And I didn't know this. And if I knew what I know, if I knew what I knew now, back when I first met you, do you even think that we'll be talking right now? She's like, probably not. Because I was so focused on someone else's brand and not growing my own. So no, we was not going to get connected to that. If anything, it probably would have drove her more away from me like it did with me with everyone else. But because I feel like God finds the right time for him to introduce you to certain people or reintroduce you to certain people. And it reintroduced me to her in the beginning years of IAG. Back in by 2019, the people of the team was like, man, Kay is doing great. But then everyone else started to back away from IAG. And at that time I started to understand what my plan was. I'm like, I'm okay with people letting go. I'm okay with people saying, hey, maybe this is not for me. Maybe, I need to grow in another lane, and I'm okay with that. But it was only two people that I was not about to let go of. And that was Lady K and Abstract. Abstract is a dancer, friend of mine who is now the vice president of IAG. And why is that? Because this year, I told Lady K, I said, hey, if I was to ever leave Houston, I want you to run IAG. So now she's not just the leading artist. She is the COO of my company. She's not just the vice president. She's if I say no, she can go overrule me and say yes. And I feel comfortable with that because Lady K, she has been a part of the movement from Justice for Joshua to the I'm a Survivor seminar and making it what it is now. Now it's not just a regular event. Now it's not just congressional. Now it's proclamated. So now it's getting those recognition because everyone is in place. If it wasn't for Lady K putting that letter in without me knowing, saying like, man, this event is great. This event is for the people. She believes in the same things I believe in. And it's not every day you find someone like that. And then on top of that, she's a Capricorn just like me. So we got some of the same personality traits. She's crazy, I'm crazy too. I'm crazy when she's normal, and when she's crazy, I'm the normal one. We just work together.
So that's y'all sisters. Y'all
Yeah.
connected like that.
Yeah.
That's great. Because I can definitely relate. But unfortunately, I'm a one-man army. Yeah, unfortunately, I was graced that way. It's hard for me to connect with folks that way. So I applaud y'all.
Yeah.
So, with this event, this is what I want to talk about. You say you're proclamated, congressionally recognized.
Yeah.
So, kind of give the people just a little bit of the accolades that come from this series.
Well, the I'm a Survivor seminar is an artistic counseling event where I gather with some of the artists in the city of Houston this year, outside the city of Houston. When we first started doing this, it started out because of not being able to tell my mother's story the way she wants it to be told. My mom told me when I was at the age of 16 that I was going to be the one to tell her story one day. And I'm like, me tell the story? I'm the oldest. So I was like, me tell the story? She's like, yes, your little sister, like my little sister, she's not the talker. She's not the one who is the event coordinator. She's not that one. She's the one she's going to be the one like, hey, if you give me something to do, I'm going to do it. She's not the one to say, I'm going to do this because I want to do it. I'm that one. So my mom said that I was going to be the one to tell her story one day. And when she told me that, I was like, well, that means I need to be started building a stage for it, right? And when then I started going through things as a childhood. In my childhood, I started going through promiscuity days and all that other stuff. But it was more so searching for love. As a child, I went through not having my biological father in my life. And for me as a little girl, I needed that. I wanted that. I craved for it. And I wasn't getting it. I wasn't getting the love I thought I should be getting. Like my mom gave me a whole lot of it. So I cling on to my mom. Like it's always been me and my mom. And then when my little sister came to places, we are all we got. But I never knew what it felt like to have the love of a father. So as I got older, I was always looking for that love. I was always looking for someone to say, I love you, but not from a woman. Because I was getting that. I got that from home, but from a man. Because I wasn't getting that. I never received that. I was getting that from my uncles, from my cousins, from my grandfather, but I didn't get that from my biological dad or from a father figure. As I got older, I started to realize those men that was put in my life, shout out to Father's Day that's getting ready to come up, right? Shout out, but if it wasn't for those men in my life showing me that love, I probably would not have ever been this way. I learned how to love because I started to realize God gives you secondary fathers to replace that void. But I didn't know that when I was a little girl. I didn't know that growing up because every man that I knew of when I was trying to navigate my own life was all taken from me, taking advantage from me, just not giving. They would give me love if I laid on my back. They would give me love in hotel rooms. They would give me love in ways I really didn't want. Well, ways I didn't need. I wanted. I wanted the touch of a man's hands. I wanted to feel security. I wanted all those things. Not knowing that I was already receiving those things by God. And when I was in high school, I was going through being sexually molested by people who I consider to be family, which made me want to leave home and be like, you know what, I'm just going to go do what I got to do and be happy. So I went, even though I didn't go off to college, I still went away to college. Going to TSU and living on campus mean I was going away from home, away from family, and knew what I had to do. But I didn't want to leave that far because I wanted to be close to home so I could help take care of my sister, be there for my mom. Because again, I was raised to believe that we are all we have. My stepdad, he did a wonderful job with just transitioning the feeling of that void. Yeah, he was, because back in the day, he was an alcoholic. He's a recovering alcoholic now. He hasn't picked up beer since 2015. Really before that, 2012. But when I was in high school, he was always drunk. And then I had family members that was taking advantage of me sexually, emotionally, physically. So I still wasn't receiving that love. So when I got in college, I started dating, and I started going through trying to figure out if this man was right for me, this or whatever. And I became engaged. And that was the worst mistake I could have ever made. Because I put it like this, that was a one night stand that lasted way too long, that decided to put a ring on it. And if a man has ever said that there was a one night stand that lasted way too long and that put a ring on it, that was probably the most disrespectful thing that could ever be said. But for me, that's how I felt. Because of the fact that it should not have went that long. But because of all the things that I was missing in my childhood, I was trying to make something become that wasn't. I was trying to force something that wasn't supposed to be. When God is ready to take stuff out of your life, He's going to do it. But if you are so trying to hold on to it, God is going to let you hold on to it. And you're going to feel why He's trying to take it away. And because of that is the reason why I was like, I needed something to take me and to hold on to me. So when it came down to the Honor Survivor seminar and me trying to tell my mom's story, but not tell it just yet, because she don't want me to tell the story until she's not here to see me tell the story. I was like, poetry for me changed my life, because with all the stuff that I was going through in my own personal life and all the stuff that I was watching, with going on with my mom and with the women that I was around or the people I was hung with, I was writing my pain. I was writing what I was going through, and that allowed me, I was like, you know what? I know what to do now. I need an event where I can counsel to someone through my art form. But I know that if I am going through this and I can write out my problems, I just imagine how many other artists are going through this too, and how many other artists write out their problems too, and how it changed their life. So I started getting connected to other artists. And the first event of the Honor Survivor Seminar, I really partnered with people who I already knew. People who have touched my life in a very inspiring way, from a Jolly, Rain the Poet, To Die For, Lyric, Shawnee, Mama Lucci, Blue, I think his name is Blue the Comic. I haven't seen him in years. No. Blue. He
Oh,
from
Jason Blue.
Yeah, he from Chicago.
Jason Blue.
To them right there, they were the first ones who I was like, I want to work with y'all. Carl Hunter. Anybody who knows Carl Hunter, because really, Carl, he quiet. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those. He when I met him, he was really going to these open mics and going to these events and being on stages. Now he's slowed down. He's more so focused on his photography. But he was the first person, the first comedian that said, who took a picture with me and said, one day this picture is going to be worth millions. He says, one day I'm going to come back to you with this picture and I'm going to have you autograph it because you're going to be a celebrity then. I'm not that celebrity yet, or so I don't think so. But he came back to me last year with the very first picture me and him took and says, can you autograph this? I was like, why? He like, because you proclamated now. That was the year where I was able to say I honored him at the I'm a Survivor seminar. Because the first I'm a Survivor seminar, that was the year when where comedian Mamalucci, he could not be a part of the very first one. He didn't feel he wasn't ready mentally for the I'm a Survivor seminar the very first year. So Carl, he was supposed to be just taking pictures. I said, Carl, I need you to get up there. I need you to speak. He like, you want me to speak? And I was like, yes. He's like, okay. So he did this thing that he does now, do inspirational quotes. And he really just inspired a whole room of people. And every year, people got familiar with seeing Carl's face at the I'm a Survivor seminar. No matter if he was there speaking, taking pictures, or just there. They was familiar with him. And they said he is a very big part of this event. So last year, I was able to give him his roses. I said, Carl, I want to honor you for your acts of services with the I'm a Survivor seminar. Not only is he one of those people that you just need to have around, he knows a lot about the entertainment industry, which is the reason why he slowed down. It's just, this event, it has touched so many different lives. I remember the first event, it was only 50 people in attendance, to the point where now I had to bring the event outside because I can't fit people inside of one room. And it's gotten to the point where I was like, I might be stumbling over my words. But this year, I decided that I wanted to go back to the basics. Because as much as, it's grown to the magnitude of where it grown to. For the past year and a half, and I believe I was talking to you about this when we was outside, was that I've been on this journey, so to speak, about my personal life and where I've come to now. Like I said, I went through child abuse. I went through all those different things as a child. And now when you look at me, you don't see the same person. You don't see that person. You don't see that little girl that was hurt. You don't see the little girl that went through A, B, and C. Now you look at me and you say, you have grown. You're not that same little girl anymore. And it's only because I'm walking by faith now. I know how to walk by faith and allow God to lead me in the right direction and take me to those places I need to go. I've learned how to let go finally. Just let anything that I feel like I was going through, I learned how to just say, you know what? I can't handle this on my own. I think God can handle this situation a lot better than I can. And last year, I was going through this thing where I've put in so much work and I was doing so much I allowed God to just lead me. And then doors started just opening even more. I was starting to be honored for certain stuff. Miss Bougie with the Rated Bougie Award, she honored me for being a creative entrepreneur of the year. Broadcast Houston honored me back in 2020 for a small business, and I was like, I didn't ask for any of this. Like, why is this happening? Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee giving me congressional recognition. I was like, I didn't know how to. I still sometimes don't know how to receive when someone is giving me something. And then the church, Outpouring International Ministries. When I first went there last year, the first lady came to me. Prophetess Shanita Jeffrey. She is actually the keynote speaker for this year's I'm a Survivor seminar. She told me, she was like, it's okay to be rewarded for when you're doing what God has asked you to do. When you're doing something what God is telling you to do, that's not people honoring you. That's God saying, I see you. So he said, so she was like, the one thing you can do to make God just feel like, oh my God, she just don't want this, is to not take what he's giving you. If he's giving you this award, it's not them. He's working through the acts of people to show you, hey, I see you. When he puts certain people around you in your circle, one of these days, I was like, she was like, one of these days, people are going to see just what you do. And when they see you, it's not them seeing you. God sees you. He's paying attention. So when you see the congressman comes in front of you, he see you. Accept it. And by doing that, I was like, okay, I can do this now. And then on August the 7th of 2021, 8721, Mayor Sylvester Turner gave I'm a Survivor seminar a day in the city of Houston, which I was like, what? I was like, when stuff just started happening, I was like, I don't know how to receive this. She's like, just receive it. Just take it. But she was like, but when you do this, he's not giving you this for any reason but to serve him. So now that you got this, what are you going to do with it? And I think a lot of us, when we get rewarded, we think that this reward is for us.
Right.
Not knowing of what it's really for. Lady K is the first person that said, when we got the congressional certificate, she says, you know what this congressional certificate means, right? She's like, I'm like, what? She's like, that means you got to help the country now. You're not just helping locals. So when the country is hurting, we are hurting too. And we got to find a reason to help, because that's what this congressional certificate is for. So I started working with Congressman Al Green and my uncle James Hudson to getting justice for a young man who was shot and killed back in 2020, Joshua J. Johnson, which the case is the case was reopened. Trying and fighting for that, we was able to start doing press conferences. So now we're not just doing regular artist events anymore. Now we're not just doing comedy shows anymore. Now we're doing this on a major level, where we got the Congressman Al Green to go all the way national in front of the president, in front of Congress, talking about my best friend's name, Joshua J. Johnson. To mention his name and says, we are fighting. He's like, I sat with the mother, I sat with the father, I sat with his friends, and they want to know, they want answers. To have him go and do that because we encouraged him to do that, it speaks volumes. That lets me know, I'm like, we are doing this for more than just one thing. We're not just doing this for us. After 2020 got here, I lost 10 people in my life. I lost my grandfather. I lost my great aunt, my biological father, who I never met, but I still feel that void. Because that was the year when we was starting to get connected to each other. Mm-hmm. Still never met him. But spiritually, I was connected. So when he died, I was like, that was a void that I was like, I would never be able to fix that. I would never get that chance. And then after him was my great aunt. And then I had a break. Like all of February, I lost someone literally every single week. So February is a hard month for me. Then I had a break throughout March, but then April came. And I remember back in January of 2020, I asked God to take my platform and use it for Him. I didn't know I found the real definition of sacrifice, what it really meant to sacrifice. Everyone can say sacrifice is this, sacrifice is that. No, I learned the real definition of sacrifice because God would take people that you love the most and build a platform around it. But when He takes people, your job is to do what it is He's telling you to do. Don't use it for the glory of your own name, but use it for the glory of the Lord. And I strongly believe that. Because when Joshua was taken, I remember the day it happened. That morning, I felt, it was funny. It was April 22nd. I felt something funny happening. Like, I just didn't feel right. And the first person who got the call from me that something just didn't feel right that morning, I called Kay. I said, Kay, girl, what you doing? She's like, I'm asleep. It was like, I think it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. She's like, I'm asleep. And what? I said, I don't feel right. She's like, well, maybe you should go back to sleep. I said, I'm on my way to work. She's like, well, get off the phone with me and go to work then. Maybe you'll feel better. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But I still couldn't, it still was, something just wasn't sitting well with me. I couldn't get that feeling out of me. So around 10 o'clock that morning, something in me told me to call my ex. Now, me and my ex, our best friend is Josh. That's his best friend. We all used to work together. So me and him, at that time we wasn't together no more. We broke up a couple months before. So something just told me to call him. I called him. I said, hey, what you doing? He was like, I can't talk right now. I said, oh, okay. Well, call me back later. He like, I'm gonna call you back in a couple of minutes. I said, wait, what? Why? I thought you said you can't talk right now. He's like, I'm busy right now. I just can't talk right now. There's a lot going on, but I got you. I have to call you back in a couple of minutes. Just stay by your phone. I was like, okay. So the conversation started. It sounded weird. I was calling to be funny. But when he answered the phone, his voice was shaking, and I didn't understand it. So as I'm leaving out of the Taco Bell parking lot, I'm on lunch. I leave out of the Taco Bell parking lot, and he says, hey, are you driving? I said, yeah. He like, stop the car. I said, why? He like, just stop the car. So I pulled over and I stopped the car. And he says, are you off for work or are you going back to work? I said, I'm going back to work. Why? I'm like, wait, what is wrong? Why are you sounding like this? He like, please don't cry. I said, what happened? He was like, Josh is dead. I said, huh? I was like, wait, what? He was like, Josh is dead. I said, what Josh? Like, it was shocking because I'm like, out of all the people, Josh, like Josh, like black guy, Josh. Like, yeah, that guy. I'm like, how? Like, I'm still thinking he's joking. I was like, how? He's like, he was shot by police. I said, and all I kept on saying was, Josh, what was he doing? Like, what could Josh possibly be doing to get shot by police? He's like, they say he was protecting his neighbor's home. They say he walked up to the car with a BB gun. And I'm like, all I kept on saying was, Josh, what could he have said for this to happen? And he says, they said words were exchanged. I said, what words? Like, I'm still haven't got off the fact that this man was taken. I said, and who shot him again? He like, the police. I said, the police shot Josh? And this is around the time, this was a month before George Floyd was shot. Was killed. So this, for me, changed my whole outlook on all of this. I was like, no, this can't be happening. Not to Josh. And then I read the news article. because I had to have it put in stone for me. I need to see that this is what they told me. I'm like, where did he get shot? When did it happen? And he said it happened this morning about 5 o'clock. And I'm like 5. He like about 5:55. I'm like, this is the feeling I felt this morning. That's what was happening. That's the reason why I felt like something was wrong. That's what was wrong. My friend was shot. My friend was dead when I felt this. Because the feeling came out of nowhere. I was driving. I was perfectly fine. And then out of nowhere, I just felt something wrong. So for Kay to have got that first call, and for her to have answered, and then when I got off the phone with my ex, first person I called was Kay. I said, Kay, I know what was wrong. She's like, what? I said, you remember the guy from Reliant? She's like, yeah. She's like, Josh. She's like, the one who worked in club level, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, he's dead. She's like, ain't that your best friend? I said, yeah. She's like, Fee. So it meant the world to me to fight for him. Because I'm like, I'm not fighting for just some regular person I've never met before. Like, my heart goes out to the families that lost loved ones, to George Floyd, to Adrian Medeiros, to Nicholas Chavez, to all of them, Breonna Taylor, all of them. My heart goes out to them. To all the people that's fighting for them. My heart goes out to them. But for me, this was personal. I'm like, I'm an artist. I have a voice. I need to use it. And if I'm going to use it for any reason, I'm going to use it for him.
So what was the outcome of everything that you've done?
Out of everything I've done?
In regard to Joshua's case?
Well, back in 2021, after the George Floyd case, after he got justice, the family was like, oh, wow, we might have a chance. Because with the case, the verdict was that the officer was not indicted. He didn't get indicted for the charges of killing Joshua J. Johnson. And to know that the DA gave a 10-page report to the grand jury after it was a 500-page police report. That means she picked out what she wanted to give the grand jury, which means that this case was completely covered up. The case continued to change over time. The police report kept on changing. They kept on adding to the police report. So the first story that was told was that Joshua J. Johnson had walked up to an unmarked vehicle with an unmarked officer in the front seat of the car, underneath the brightest light on the street. He shined the light from his cell phone through the car window with the replica, what was seen to be a gun that turned out to be a BB gun in his hand. When Joshua rolls his pistol, the officer rolls his gun. Shot fired 2 times. The first shot, he missed. The second shot, he landed. That's when Josh took off running towards his car that was in front of his neighbor's home that he was protecting. What's crazy with this story is that story changed drastically over the course of a year. Then it went from then it turned out that the police car, the unmarked vehicle, was not underneath the brightest light in the street. It was actually in a dark lot at the end of the road that Joshua walked, but Joshua still managed to walk down the street to the unmarked vehicle, shine his light. They kept him doing the same thing, but the car moved. It went from the brightest light to the street, back down to the dark lot at the end of the street. Because as we did our own personal thorough investigation, after the police was supposed to, we did our own. And we found blood trails in the back lot at the end of the road. We found trails down the street. We found a gun shell hole in the neighbor's garage door across the street, adjacent from the house he was protecting, where his car was at. And what's crazy is that house had 4 cars in the driveway. The house, the house goes like this. The garage door is right here. The hole from the gunshot is right here. You cannot shoot that from your car. But this car officer never made it seem like he got out the car. So how you make that shot from sitting inside of your car? That at one point in time was underneath the brightest light in the street. The second time your car was in the lot down the street. So how can you make that from that car? Unless you got a supersonic gun and it just makes moves like that. And there's 4 cars in the driveway. So then they said that Joshua ran. Which I believe this. You have someone shooting at you that's in an unmarked vehicle wearing civilian clothing. Unless you told this man that you was a cop, he was not about to run from you. This man is a man that was in the service. He ain't finna run from you. You an officer. He's not gonna run from you. You said he had a BB gun on him. By the end of the police report, that gun has moved from when they said that they saw him with the gun. They didn't see him with the gun the whole entire time in the police report until the very end when they was pulling him out of the car. They said the first time the BB gun was on his leg. The second time they said the BB gun was on the dashboard. The third time they said the BB gun was in the passenger seat. The fourth time is that they said it was on the passenger seat. On the floor of the passenger seat. Where was this BB gun at? Did he have this BB gun? Or did you pull the BB gun out of the car when you pulled him out of the car? See, all these was in the police report. However, when you only give a 10-page police report of a 500-page police report, the grand jury not going to get the whole story, and they're going to make a verdict on what they have. So what happens? The officer got off on murder. The DA encouraged this. The people, Harris County was, and I'm trying not to say so much stuff because they still listening. And I'm guarantee you, by me talking about all this, they're watching too. So you be careful.
I don't have nothing to worry about.
Because they have tapped into not just my Facebook account. They tapped into Kay's Facebook account. They tapped into my uncle's Facebook account. They watches. We had a meeting at a church, and there was a satellite van off at the distance, and we're in an area where you don't just really see stuff like this walking down the street. Not in this neighborhood. There's African Americans everywhere. So when you find an Iranian walking down the street next to a phone store, by the way, there's an Iranian walking in front of the church, walking back and forth, trying to catch signal. There's a satellite van right here. There's Metro PCS right here. And you over here by the church walking back and forth, trying to pick up signal. Why? Tapping into what we're talking about. Trying to catch what conversations we're having. The family of this young man can't even sleep. Why? Because then you get people to move in behind your house. In the house behind your house. And put a camera. They don't have cameras nowhere. But just on the back side of their house. That looks directly into your house. When you have this happening. That's the reason why I fight the way I do. The reason why, yes, I might be quiet for the most part of it, but I ain't never stopped fighting. So, last year with the I'm a Survivor seminar, I ain't gonna lie, I was able to honor the family of Joshua's parents by giving them the Lifetime Achievement Award, a Lifetime Survivor Award, because they are the real MVPs out of all of this. We talking about an elderly man and woman, Mr. Berry and Mrs. Berry. They didn't get the chance to see their son until the day of the wake. Try going the whole entire week and not seeing your son's face, but you know he was shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get the last time you saw your son was when he told you, Mom, I'm finna go down the street to go get your debit card out of my car. I'm about to go to my car, because he parked his car at his neighbor home to protect his neighbor home, because that house was previously broken into.
Mm-hmm.
The family of that house trusted Josh, because since he was young, he protected that home. He would always be the one to go cut the grass. He might park his car. He's always the first person they call to say, hey, my mom is going to the hospital. Can you come and just watch the house while she's in the hospital? Make sure it stays safe and stuff. So he was that one. So that morning, he literally said, I'm about to go get your debit card out my car, and I'm about to bring it back. His mom about to get ready to go to work. To know that was the last time you saw your son. And he wasn't taken for any other reason but because of a mistake. And the reason why I say a mistake, because according to the law, is that they was looking for a capital murder suspect out of Mesquite, Texas. And when I look at the pictures, the face, they kind of resemble. They both are African American. They both have slender faces. They're both around the same height, not the same age, not at all. They're like 10 years apart. Joshua was 36 at the time. So to have that happen, and to know that literally you didn't get the chance to see your son's face until 6 days later, because they said, oh, his body is they're gonna have to do run tests and all this other stuff. So you tell me I can't see just his face? What really happened? Usually you can't see your son. You can't see their face unless their whole body looks completely different, like one of those type of situations. But to know you only shot at him twice. You only had one bullet landed. So why can't I see my son's face? To make sure this is my child. To make sure this is my flesh and blood. You tell me I cannot make sure of this? I have to take your word for it. See, if it was me, I would have probably said, you know what? Since you can't let me see my son's face, I don't know if this is my son or not. I'm finna go put a missing person's case out on him. Now we're 2 years in, and we was able to manage to get the case to get back open. Because I'm not gonna say that part. Again, I can't. It's certain stuff I can't say. But
understood.
The case is now reopened, and what we're hoping to do is finally get justice. And do I think we're gonna get justice now? Nah, no. Know what I know? Nah, we ain't gonna get justice right now. We're not gonna get answers. We're not gonna get the truth. None of it right now. But what I do believe will happen is that by staying on it, the person who did this, Officer 2 Tran, your day is coming. And it's not going to be through us. Something else is going to happen. And that's when the truth is going to come out. So, that was heavy for me.
Yeah. Look, because normally I would interject. I want you to speak your piece. Because what my show is about too is about healing.
Yeah.
The only way that you can heal over certain things is if you speak them out, right?
Yeah.
And then have somebody who listens. Sometimes the best part about communication is the listening part.
Yeah.
You learn a whole lot more. So, before we close, tell the people how they can get in contact with you and how they can also take part in this event.
Okay. Well, if you would like to stay in contact with me and find out what all I have going on, you can follow me either on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. On Facebook, I go by Felicia Chantel. On Instagram, you can find me at IAG_productions. And if you are on TikTok and you would like to stay in contact with me on there as well, that is Goddess Fee. That's G0DD3SSF3. Follow me on all social media platforms. EnterpriseK15 at gmail.com for bookings. Book IAG for your next local event on all platforms. We do absolutely and utterly everything you can think of. Whatever you need, we got you. And if you would like to be more involved with the 8th annual Congressionally Proclamated Day for the I'm a Survivor seminar, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Tickets go on sale on July 1st. Again, it will be going on sale on July 1st through Ticket Leap. So make sure you follow me so you can get all those wonderful details. Thank you so very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming. Also sharing your story. Because you know what? I've known you in passing, but I didn't know to the extent of what you dealt with. And also what you do from an entertainment industry perspective.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It feels good to just have someone to want to know more about it. So I appreciate you as well.
All right. So how we normally end our shows, we normally come with a monologue. So today, Goddess Fee, she gave us the whole history. So number one, how she started into the entertainment industry with 2K comedy, progressing that to 2K poetry, then also building her own brand with IAG, with Lady K. And also some of the things that she's done within the community, and also seeking justice for her friend Joshua Johnson. Now, when we go through this entire story, there's one underlying current that I see. There's a common denominator here. And it goes back to the topic of today, elevators. When we think of our own personal stories, when we think about our own personal perspectives, we always start from the ground floor. We come up. This year, I can definitely relate to what she's talking about going through something and then all of a sudden you have a breakthrough. This year, I've been more successful than I possibly have ever been in my entire life. But I had to take a sacrifice for it. I had to lose something for it. You, my audience, you know what I lost. But you know what, you gain so much more. And with that being said, the accolades, they're great. The status or the station, that's great. But the most important thing, or the thing that means the most to me throughout this year, is having the ability to widen the platform to do so much good. And number one, we want to shout out Santee and Associates Foundation, and also Houston Network. As we stated before, we were honored with the presidential honors for community service and media. And with that came with great responsibility. So the platform is larger now, so we have to do more healing. We can't be too incendiary, but also we're not afraid. So whatever she was talking about, or people come after us, we're not worried about that. God protects us, and for most definitely, He fights our battles. And as you're seeing this, I'm about to embark on another journey. So this is one facet of World of Comedy 5 Entertainment. The next facet will be on stage. So we'll be in Atlanta. Matter of fact, when you see this, I'll be coming back from Atlanta. So send us some shout outs in the comments. I probably have some footage that I'll put up here very shortly after you see this. But guys, until we meet again, love each other. Do something nice for somebody. Don't just be selfish and think about yourself. Be a leader, but also elevate. Ken Mills here with Unbiased on also Houston Network. We'll see y'all next week. Hello fam, Ken Mills here once again. with World of Comedy 5 Entertainment. So to give you the idea of what Unbiased is, we always see things on social media and also in the world where we wonder what is the thought process behind these idiotic things that people do. We're going to give an honest, unbiased opinion. So with that being said, we're going to cover several different topics. These topics will start from mental health, addiction, finance, incarceration, relationships. We're going to be truly unbiased this season. So remember, tune in at 8 p.m. Check us out on Boss Up Houston Network.
Wanna be a boss? You're watching Boss Up Houston Network. It's Boss Up Houston, where we look up, stay up, and boss up.